What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Leverage Redemption Season 1, Episode 15, The Muddy Waters Job. So another pretty frustrating episode in some cases, not as bad as the Great Train Job, because I did actually have some fun. There were some funny moments in this. But yeah, the message again, it's not subtle. It's very bashing you over the head with it. And they don't like to present the other side of the argument either, is I think what I get frustrated with. Now, obviously in the Great Train Job, there's no presenting the other side, because I mean, obviously, hating other people for what they look like or who they like or any of that stuff, clearly that's wrong. And there's no, well, let's talk about it from the other point of view. But with this, I mean, the whole debate on oil, there's both sides. You know, I like to bring up the episode in the Blacklist where they talked a bit about gun control because they had both sides of the argument. You know, Reddington is obviously somebody who uses guns all the time. He's a criminal. So, of course, he supports guns. He supports people being able to own guns. One of the members of the team, he's a member of the NRA, fully supports the Second Amendment. But then some of the members of the team do think there needs to be more control over guns and who can own them. But they made the bad guy in that episode a gun seller who is selling to criminals to increase gun crimes so that people would feel unsafe and buy more guns from them. That's something that both sides of the argument can agree is bad. So that's where I feel like they did a good job of showing both sides of it. In this one, they made oil guys the bad guys. They made Brianna, who is against oil, basically, they gave her the Felicity treatment, where everything she said was right. Nobody could disagree with her. And if they did, they were shut down instantly. That's not as fun. Show both sides of it. You got Elliot, who it did seem like her words were getting under his skin. Have him pop back with something that shuts her up. You know, have him bring up one of the points, because there are points for why we need oil, why we still need to use it, why we don't need to get rid of it entirely like some people want us to do, because clearly an energy source that we've been using for decades now, we can just get rid of it like that because we have the infrastructure built for that to happen. Like, that's the thing. There are things you can use to disagree with that point, but they don't have Elliot do that. They just have him sit there and she's like, oh, your face is getting twitchy. Did I get under your skin with that one? Did I get under? Like, having her ride this high horse throughout the entire episode. And for me, that's just, again, you're pandering to your audience. Well, not even your whole audience. You're just pandering to half of your audience. And you're pandering to people who agree with you. But the people who disagree with you are just sitting there going, okay, well, can you at least say what my side thinks? Can you at least bring up some points that my side think? You don't have to agree with them. Can you at least show that, though? So it gets really frustrating, and especially because it's Brianna. And again, her type of character, that young, spunky, I'm always right, and those old people, they don't know what they're talking about because they're doing it wrong. They've been doing it wrong for so long, and now we're the new young generation. We've got it right. We know what's right. That type of character, honestly, that type of person in real life just annoys me. So to have her be the one that was just, she was right in this episode, I was not a big fan of that. On top of that, the story itself, hugely predictable. I mean, it basically, if you have seen a TV show before, like Leverage, if you've seen anything that has stories like this, you could have predicted from the very first scene what was going to happen. And I'm a little disappointed by that, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because the thing is, you've got this setup where there's that personal connection. You know, Harry knows this guy, he's married to Harry's ex-wife, so he trusts him. He wants to trust him, but then almost instantly he gets shot down with this knowledge of, oh wait, no, he's actually possibly working to cover up this oil spill. Like that, it's such a, I don't know, it's such a predictable line of story where everything basically from the opening scene where Harry is defending this guy and Brianna's like, no, he's the oil. These are the bad guys. These are the bad guys. It's set up in a way where, okay, so Harry is so adamant that he's a good guy, he's going to be a bad guy in the end, right? And even when Harry talks to him and asks him these questions, and he looks him dead in the face and is saying, no, there's no problem here. you get the sense that, okay, so he's going to be a bad guy, right? I wanted any sort of flip on this formula that I've seen done to death. The only change that they gave me is one that actually I think makes this whole story even worse, and that is Grace decides she wants to stay with him in the end. Because if they had had Grace break up with him and decide to go back with Harry, that would have been that would probably have been the only thing you would have changed that could have made the story more predictable. But they didn't have that. And at first I was like, please just have him or have her leave him. And when Harry's like, hey, if you need a place to stay, if she just goes, Harry, this is not us getting back together. I just discovered something awful about him. I need some time, to figure out what just happened. If you did that, that would have been a nice little flip. It would have been a little less predictable. It would have given it something different. But to give it different in a sense of, no, Grace is actually just a horrible person who cares more about money than saving lives. To me, that's not a good change because it makes her less likable. And I don't know. I'm very confused as to why they decided to do this because, again, everything else about it was super predictable. Everything else about the oil spill being the fault of the company. I don't remember the name now of the guy that is now married to Harry's ex-wife, but him being involved, like all of that was super predictable. And then the one thing that you did change, the one formula that you did change where Harry's ex-wife doesn't go running back to him, you decided to go the exact opposite and make her just a terrible person. I hate this story now because the rest of it I've seen before, and then that was just stupid. So I'm very frustrated with how they handled this episode and that story. The parts of it, though, that were good, probably everything to do with what they're setting up for the end of the season. Now, the thing with Harry going and talking to RIZ, which I'm assuming we're going to find out they're the ones that bombed the gas. What's it called? Geez, I don't even remember terminology now. But where they were drilling for the oil and all of that. I'm assuming we're going to find out that RIZ is the one that bombed it, and they're claiming it's eco-terrorists. So I'm assuming that's going to be the case. Harry going and talking to, I think it's Alexandra, is the head lady of RIZ. That feels like it's oh no, guys, Harry's going to the bad side because of what happened with Grace. But in reality, all I see it as is he's trying to get inside RIZ so he can take it down from the inside. That's, for me personally, that is a lot more likely than him actually deciding to work with RIZ, especially considering, I know I'm looking at this now with the fact that the show is still going on. So I'm able to look and see, well, Harry is still a part of the front picture of Leverage Redemption. Now, obviously, so is Hardison, and he's not hardly been involved this season. But the fact that Harry is still there, to me, that tells me he's probably still going to be around next season. I don't think the team would work with him if he actually betrayed them and went to work for RIZ. So that's just why that thought is there. But the stuff with Sophie possibly leaving the team, the stuff with Elliot and Maria, I kind of like some of that. It feels like they're giving this team a chance to, I guess it's their way, possibly, of if we do not get a season 2, here's our way of let's have some of these characters get their happy ending. Parker, obviously, still with Hardison, will still be with him, working with Leverage International, all that. So that's her happy ending. Brianna, obviously, getting to work with Leverage. She'll love that. Elliot maybe getting a chance to step away from this life and be with Maria. Because I know he talked about showing her this life. But I think it could also go the other way, too. Is he decides he wants to leave this life to be with her, if she can't accept it. And then for Sophie, getting that dream job she always wanted. I think it's all really nicely set up in that sense, if they didn't get a season 2. Now, did they know at this point whether they had a season 2 or not? I'm not sure. So maybe we'll see in the next episode whether it ends on this could be the ending, or if it ends on nope, we've got a season 2, look forward to that. But I liked a lot of that stuff. I liked all the stuff on the oil rig. There we go. The word just came to mind. All that stuff on there was really funny, seeing Elliot just get involved, and the fact that he is so ready for a fight. So the moment when the guy's like, hey, we checked up on this stuff and something didn't seem right. It didn't seem right. You didn't get a party for your baby. Congratulations. And he's just, the look on his face where you can just tell he goes from, I'm so ready to fight all these guys, to, I don't get to fight anybody and now I have to socialize. Are you kidding me? It's phenomenal. I love how they handle just Elliot, Parker, Sophie, how they handle the interactions among the team. Brianna, again, is the only one that I'm just not as big of a fan of, because, again, she gets kind of the Felicity from Arrow treatment, where she's always right. She's always the one that seems to be getting the upper hand in arguments and pissing people off. I kind of would like it to go both ways, and I don't feel like it happens enough. But yeah, all in all, a very frustrating episode with some minor points of, oh, that was okay. But that being said, we're on to the season finale, so I will see you guys there in just a minute. And finally, episode 16, the Harry Wilson job. So pretty solid finale, honestly, and something that I think it sets up for a season 2 without being obvious that it's setting up for a season 2. It can very much feel like the team's just going to keep going about their way, doing what they're doing, and Harry's going to go off and do his own thing and still be helpful to people in need. So I think it's a really solid finale for this season, and one that, again, I don't really know that they thought they were getting a season 2 from it, because it does sort of feel as if this could be a good ending for this series as a whole. Because I know obviously one season is not much to do with it, but I liked how they sort of showed what the team is up to currently. It was really a season about Harry, from beginning to end, him getting involved with the team, seeing how much he went through in his past, and sort of how it all came to an end and wrapped up and showed he's trying to do better. He's trying to basically make up for a lot of the mistakes that he went through in the past. So yeah, I liked all of that setup. As far as the case that they took on for this one, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I figured they're probably going to go up against RIZ. To find out that RIZ was actually planning something as crazy as shutting down an entire power grid, I will admit, it's pretty bonkers, and it raises the stakes to make it an epic finale. So I really appreciated how they handled it. I think everything to do with that final scene between Sophie and Alexandra, I really thought that was well set up. You're just showing, first of all, anytime you have a character like Alexandra that is just so confident, so self-confident in her abilities and her power that she has with RIZ, anytime you have a character like that, to see the confidence start to wane and see them get their comeuppance, so satisfying every single time. It doesn't matter how many times they do this, I'm always going to be sitting here with a big goofy grin on my face as she slowly realizes everything Sophie is saying is happening. It's always so much fun. And I think especially showing, because you have this countdown, which I don't know if they're implying that maybe Henderson changed the code to make it last longer than a minute, because even Sophie threw in a little line. That minute felt very long, didn't it? But just the fact that we see as she's counting down, we see her start, 50 seconds, 40 seconds. Then when Sophie gets to a point where Alexandra starts to realize maybe there is some truth to this, maybe they did plan for this to happen, all of a sudden now Sophie interjects with 30 seconds left. And it kind of shows where Alexandra is counting down because she feels she's in control. That moment when she loses control, that's when Sophie starts to count down. But then Alexandra, of course, steps in and she says 20 seconds. And I think Sophie was the one that ended with the 10 seconds. It's just, it was a very clever setup scene for me. And to show how everybody got involved, having Henderson come back in for this episode and how he helped out. The fact that, throughout most of this season, we saw that Parker was training Brianna on how to use some of the rappel stuff, doing some of the thief type stuff. And we get to see she's the one that crawled through the vents to get to Harry in this episode. I like that little bit of a payoff. And obviously she still wasn't doing any sort of true rappelling outside of jumping out of the building with Parker. But to see her get to be the thief in this episode so that Henderson could be the hacker, I thought it was a nice kind of wrap up for her character arc this season, showing how she is starting to get better at multiple parts of the job. And I think that's something that Leverage, the original show, like to do throughout the seasons, is show how everybody has their specialty. Elliot, obviously he's the best fighter out of the group. Hardison is the best hacker. Parker's the best thief. Sophie's the best grifter. But they all had to wear different hats and different jobs sometimes, and they had to grow to do that. They weren't perfect when they started out. They weren't instantly good at it, but eventually they did get good at it, to the point where now, Parker, she can hold her own in a fight, so can Hardison. They all are able to put on these different characters and be pretty good grifters. They all can pick a lock easily now. So I'm really appreciating how they're showing that, how they're showing everybody can wear the different hats of the job, but they still all have their specialties. So in this episode, having, Brianna, who's been the hacker all season, she now gets to step into the role of the thief. And it's the first time she's really had to step. I mean, obviously she's done a little bit of grifting here and there, but she really hasn't stepped too far outside of her comfort zone on her own. And this is really the first time that she was on her own. She had to be the thief, and she did well. So yeah, really, really solid finale. And I think it brings to a close what has been a good season. Obviously, I don't really remember the first half of the season super well because it's been so long since I watched it. But I feel like overall, I remember enjoying a lot of these episodes. Some of them were a little bit more frustrating. Again, Brianna still kind of growing on me. I wouldn't say that I'm a huge fan of her character at the end of the season yet, but I can see the potential there. I feel like they are doing a decent job of growing her character. She's not so one note anymore. She's not as annoying as I remember her being in the first half of the season. So overall, it was just a really well done series that continues on the story of a lot of these characters. Obviously, no Nate involved, so that he was kind of the glue that held the team together in the original show. But I think having Harry be the center of this season, having him be kind of the main focus and the one that got the biggest character arc, while the rest of the team, we get to see where they are down the line. We see Parker and Hardison are doing well, but she's still kind of trying to learn how to be a human, still trying to learn how to not be so weird, I guess. Trying to understand how to live in society while also still being the amazing thief that she is. And I think something I didn't talk about from this last episode, that moment between her and Elliot, where he is explaining to her about that whole conversation with Maria. And I don't even remember how she put it now. But basically, it was something along the lines of, if she doesn't accept you for who you are, then I'll just hang her off of a building. She gave him some actual solid advice, but there's still those Parkerisms, where, she doesn't accept you for who you are, well, then I'll just toss her out of a building until she does accept you. Like, obviously, that's not okay. You can't force Maria to be okay with what Elliot does. But seeing Elliot try to find that connection with Maria, and obviously it fails at the end of this season, I do kind of wonder if that's going to come back, though. Because you could tell there's a real connection there. And I feel like that's something that they might try to possibly... Either Elliot might take a step away from the team or might become distracted by that. Or maybe we do at some point see that Maria starts to see what they're doing and starts to realize that, you know what? Yeah, they're working outside the law. Yeah, they're criminals. But they're not really criminals. What they're doing, it is truly just. And maybe she does find it in her heart to accept them in the next season. But I think that story was a nice little side one. Sophie, of course, dealing with what happened with Nate. I don't remember if we actually found out what happened to him. We found out maybe somebody was involved with his death or not. Not sure. Maybe that's something they're saving for next season. But I feel like seeing how she sort of overcame her grief and came back into this world after what happened with Nate, because obviously she didn't want to be reminded of this world because of that. But in the end, I think she really realized that this world and what she does and the people they help in this world, that is the true way to honor Nate's memory, because it's what he would have wanted. So I think they did a really good job of showing that as well. And finally, for Brianna, obviously, I do still have my issues with her character, but I think overall she was fine. And I do hope we get to see a little bit more growth with her next season. It still does feel like she's kind of the same type of character that she was early on, but there are still some better moments. There are still some funnier moments with her. I think overall they wrote her character a lot more funny by the end of the season, and I think it really did show that she is trying to learn. She is trying to grow, and that's not something I really thought about her early on. It felt like she was very kind of stuck, thinking one way about how everything was supposed to work. So I wonder if maybe we'll see that change a little bit more in the second season. But yeah, I will say I am looking forward to seeing what season 2 holds. I did look it up and saw that they're apparently, I think, in the process of filming season 3 at the moment. So I'm glad that it's continuing on past this, because it is a really fun sequel series in my opinion. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and move back to the Star Wars stuff. I just wanted to take some time because I did want to see how this first season wrapped up. And it was a pretty solid wrap up, in my opinion. So that's all I have to say for it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this second half of the season as well as the first season overall? Let me know. We can talk about, discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Leverage Redemption reviews, and I will see you guys at the next season whenever that happens. Till then, I hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you all later. Peace out.